Carol Beaumont. Sorry, Carol, I didn't hear you call. Carol?
Mr Chair, this is the first time I've spoken on this bill, so I do want to go back, if you like, to the very beginning and talk about the harm that is caused by gambling. I think that that's the right place to start when we're looking at this bill and looking at possible amendments to it, because I do hope that some members opposite may actually decide to do the right thing and to actually tighten up this bill, which, as my colleague and friend Denise Roach has said, has been absolutely gutted from a bill that started out with great intentions and some very, very useful provisions. It has been absolutely gutted. Now we have an opportunity to do that. But why do we need to do that? Well, our role here as members of Parliament is to try and deal with issues of harm in our communities, to try and put in place legislation that can help communities and can try and avoid harm. And at any given time in this country, between 0.3 and 1.8% of adults living in the community are likely to score as problem gamblers on standard questionnaires. Now that's about between 10,000 and 60,000 people. And the harm from their gambling can include poor parenting, family violence, other crime and suicide. And the obvious point is that those things, those harms, affect people other than just the gambler. And so what you start to get is much bigger numbers. So the reasonable ballpark figure may well be that adults and children affected by problem gambling might range up to 500,000 people in our community. 500,000 people in our community. And overwhelmingly, that damage is being done in high deprivation neighbourhoods, is being done among Māori and Pacific peoples and Māori and Pacific women in particular. And it is pokies that are the most harmful form of gambling. The majority of people seeking help with their gambling problems do so because of non-casino pokies. And so it is really important that we take seriously the opportunity we have in looking at this bill and looking at the suite of amendments that are being put up. Just in terms of money and the financial cost of this, the calculation is that something in the range of $2 billion per year is lost to gambling. That's $5.6 million per day, including $2.3 million to non-casino pokies. Now, as I've already said, those non-casino pokies are more likely to be found in the more deprived areas of New Zealand rather than the well-off areas. And in fact, the ratio of pokies to people is in those poorer areas is 1 to 75, whereas in our wealthy areas the ratio is 1 pokie machine to 465 people. So quite clearly, as Denise Roach was saying, there is very, very much a targeted problem here. Those that are making money from pokies are putting them where they know they will get the most money. Now, as I said, and it is my first time speaking on this bill, and I hope to speak on it several times, but I do want to acknowledge the member and the chair. I think everybody has recognised that his original bill was very much designed to deal with the sort of harm that I've just mentioned and had a range of very good provisions in. But it has come back to this House absolutely and utterly gutted. And as I understand what is now before us, there is talk of various provisions possibly being put into regulation at some point. Well, the thing is, who would trust this government to deal with these things in this way? This is a government, as we know, and as I'm sure will get mentioned on more than one occasion tonight, that has done all sorts of deals with Sky City to actually increase the harm from gambling. But I think people I would trust are people like the Problem Gambling Foundation and the Salvation Army, and they have very clearly said that this bill, as it has now come back to the House, is essentially not a helpful bill and will not have an impact on gambling. The Salvation Army has come out criticising the changes, saying they will do nothing for problem gamblers, those at risk or at communities wishing to manage the impact of gambling. And quoting here now from Mr Chair.
Carol Beaumont.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair. Quoting from Campbell Roberts, quote, "For those of us who deal with the problems created by pokie machines every day, this bill, on balance, will make matters worse." So not only will it not help, it will make matters worse. That's a very strong statement to be made from an organisation like the Salvation Army, which I think every member in this House would recognise as being a very measured organisation who does not go out on a limb lightly. So there are real concerns about what has happened. I'm glad to say that there are a range of amendments being put up on this bill, and I have one of those amendments in my name. That is a comprehensive suite. The Honourable Trevor Mallard has been through a number of the provisions that are in his name. I just want to talk specifically about one of those amendments, and again, Denise Roach has mentioned this one, SOP 290, transfers of licences. That will provide that a territorial authority's Class 4 venue policy must include a relocation policy which must specify the maximum percentage of gaming machines permitted to operate at the new venue. This percentage must be no more than 100% of the gaming machines that were permitted to operate at the old venue immediately before the licence relating to the old venue is cancelled. This amendment also provides that if a Class 4 venue licence is to be transferred, the maximum number of gaming machines permitted to operate at the new venue at the time when the new Class 4 venue licence takes effect shall be no more than the percentage specified in the Territorial Authority's relocation policy. So again, looking at trying to give the authority the ability to reduce the numbers, and certainly not to assume that the current number of machines will be transferred over. So I think that is an attempt to help improve this bill. There are, as I said, a range of other SOPs that are being put up here tonight, and I really do hope that members opposite do honestly and carefully consider these amendments, and because this is an opportunity to actually restore some of the measures that were in Te Ora Flavel's bill, to try and make this a bill that will reduce harm in our communities. And I think that I want to give people the benefit of the doubt here, that they aren't just, basically gutting it so that their mates can get what they want out of this, that the national MPs are not motivated by those sorts of issues. And the opportunity really is to rise and speak on this bill, and to look closely at the amendments, and to attempt to replace some of the matters that are in here. I think that in looking at the second reading speeches and some of the comments that people have made, I did find it really interesting to see that the national government, or certainly one national MP, and that was Peseta Sam Lotoainga, felt that somehow this government has actually done something to reduce the number of pokie machines. Well, I'm sorry. That is called spin. That is called claiming something that has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with the government, but everything to do with sinking lid policies that local authorities have actually put in place. So I thought that was really rich to hear about. In fact, quite a lengthy piece about the number of machines being reduced and the amount of money that were being taken by pokie. Well, thank you to all the local authorities that actually have sinking lid policies for that outcome, but certainly nothing to do with the national government. Again, though, this is the same MP that talks about the gambling scourge that needs to be addressed, and all the difficulties that gambling causes. This is our Peseta Sam Lotoainga says this is a scourge, this gambling scourge that certainly needs to be addressed. Talks about it in terms of the number of constituents he sees in his electorate office, the kids that have gone without essentials, the broken families and the broken relationships. Those are all true statements. But the member actually needs to do something to make that real, and not just to make statements like that and then operate in a way that does exactly the opposite. And actually, so you could certainly start by supporting some of the amendments here. And of course, later on you'll have another opportunity when the Sky City legislation is up.
Mr. Chairman.
Call Dr. Megan Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it's my pleasure to take a call on this bill. It's the first call I've taken on this bill. And it's also my pleasure to be a member of a party that is going to